Hello, this is Neil from mypaintgirls.com. You can check out my website for more free tutorials, and also you can check out my end of all graphic novel, which is like magical elves, and it's like really cool. It's kind of like Never-Ending Story meets My Weird Mind, but it's pretty cool, and it's got mystery and adventure and all kinds of cool stuff in it. Right, so what we're going to do in this tutorial is hands, and in this case it's just how to stylize hands. That is, how to get hands to this finished stage here. Notice that it's kind of a Marvel style, because I'm typically influenced by Marvel artists, and I study how they draw hands and what they exaggerate, like what lines they exaggerate and how they do the lines and stuff. And so notice with guy hands you have a lot of lines usually, whereas girls hands you don't have as many lines. But even if you do put lines in there, they'll still look feminine as long as you have the structure right. Now, so to do this tutorial, I'm assuming that you already know how to draw the basic structure of hands. So how to get to that, basic structure, at least to get to this stage here. Or how to draw hands already in some style, but you want to do more of a Marvel comic book style. Let's say you wanted to move on from manga to something more Marvelish. Then that's what I'm going to show in this tutorial, how to do that. So let's say we have this hand here, just the basic sketch structure. I'm going to go ahead and change the color so it's easier to see. Let's see, here's saturation, and I'll turn it to kind of blue, like so. And I'll probably go ahead and, okay, cool, it's on 100%. Right, so I'm going to get my inking brush then. Size 5 or 4 usually works good. The settings for an inking brush, just in case you're wondering, is you have shape dynamics on only and smoothing's on. Right, so let's go ahead and get started. So it really comes down to, what lines to ignore, how to do the style and so forth, and where to draw your lines and that sort of thing. So that's what this tutorial is going to be going into. For a basic hand tutorial, you're going to want to look out for my new tutorial that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be a long tutorial, full series on how to draw hands, from beginning to end. So you can draw hands pretty much any style you want. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to kind of exaggerate that outer part there, and I'm going to make this line thicker to exaggerate this knuckle here. And so like I said, it's really all about what lines to exaggerate and not exaggerate, and kind of bring this in a little bit, kind of like that. And then for this knuckle here, I'm going to kind of add this little line like so, and then kind of have that knuckle like so. And it's, oops, I don't like that. It really comes down to, like I said, what you want to exaggerate and not exaggerate. I'm going to have a couple lines like in there. I want to kind of emphasize these knuckles just a bit by adding that's too many lines there. Just a couple little dashes sometimes makes all the difference in the world. And maybe I'll have just a little bit lines coming off here just to kind of show emphasis of that there. I might want to kind of bring out the knuckle a little bit in here. It's a few little thin lines. I want to kind of exaggerate that line up there. Now with the thumb, this is what you want to get used to doing, is kind of doing this kind of exaggeration that I just did there. We have these kind of for the knuckle joints, and if it's male's hand, you really want to exaggerate some of the buffness. You can oops, that's way too much. You can sometimes, kind of bring out the knuckles like that more rather than just points. Then I'm going to round off that part of the thumb. And remember that nails are shaped like this, right? They come out. They're not usually just like straight squares. Also remember that nails are concave as well. They go like that, so they're not, just straight. So keep that in mind when you're drawing nails. It'll help, to do it better. Another thing I do is I leave a lot of lines out, and in this case, like less is more type of idea. And I kind of want to hint at that knuckle there a little bit, and then sometimes to bring out the shape that I want on certain parts like that. Just that little line kind of shows more three-dimensionality. Sometimes treating hands like a glove, when you're adding the individual extra lines can really help. And sometimes, like I said, I don't fully connect lines, and I think it looks cool. I want to have all these lines down here nice and thick. That way it really exaggerates the knuckles there. And up here as well. I'm not going to fully connect those lines there. They're going to be thicker and thinner on the edges. And then sometimes, doing those little lines like that are cool. I want to kind of emphasize the knuckle here, like that. And then let's say kind of little offsets there. Come out, in, and show the knuckle like, no, it's not. Let's come out over here more like where the sketch was. That looks cool. And sometimes, for shadows, you just do like little thin lines like that, and that's enough to kind of hint that there's supposed to be a shadow there or a space there. You can, do the cross-hatching lines like that too, but typically you don't have to. Maybe just draw a few in there. It's harder for me to ink way out like this, zoomed out at 100%. I typically zoom way in when I ink, but this is actually coming okay. At this stage I can turn off this, and then it's just a matter of what extra lines you want to add some extra detail and whatnot. So you might want to add little nicks, for where the knuckles would be. I might even want to add a line like that just to show there's a square there. Really just depends. And let's see if there's anything else I can add. No, that looks pretty good, so I don't want to waste any more time. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. And this sketch here. Image adjustment, hue and saturation. Right, so I decided to go ahead and do the hue and saturation off, without recording it. There's no point in recording it. Right, so here's a lot of things to exaggerate. One, I want this line to kind of go over that line. Oops, that's going to be kind of straight. I'm going to have the little dip right here to kind of almost show where that little bone over there is. It's funny that the littlest things can make such a difference. That little dip there. See how that line doesn't look that smooth? It's because I'm too zoomed out. But maybe I should go ahead and try to zoom in a little bit here, because the point is to show the exaggerated lines here. So what you want to do is this a lot. So you notice I have this boom like that, and then I'm going to do another one here like so. And notice that those things like that really adds that comic book character look, that exaggerated thing I just did right there. And I'm going to make this line really thick. I'm going to kind of hint at maybe there'll be a little nail there. I'm thinking to add a little three-dimensionality. I'm going to add a thin line like that. Like I said, adding those lines like that in there can really add a lot of character and three-dimensionality to your work. A couple little niches there. I kind of want to hint at something right there, and I often like to hint at this three-dimensionality by adding a little line like that. That's too much of a line there. And sometimes if you don't want a full line but you still want to hint at shape, you can do little things like that. So again, watch the same thing that happens here. I'm going to treat this as a female hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to come from here and kind of swoop down and come up. And the same thing you do with male hands too, this same exaggeration. So even if you're working from a photo reference, whatever you're working for, a real hand won't have this, but adding these swoops like that really does add a lot of character to comic book stuff. Another trick to do is if this was from a photo reference, you would have pads like realistic pads. What I typically do, especially for female hands, is I draw over this pad way back here, and that this makes this part of the finger look a lot longer than it actually is. Oops, let me get rid of that line too. It makes it look a lot longer than it actually is, but it also adds more daintiness and stuff. Then I overlap it again with that pad. I'm going to make her thin, and then that pad will be in the center, and I think that adds a lot of character and feminineness, and also three-dimensionality a little bit. You can also add more three-dimensionality sometimes by just going like that, but there's probably no need to on that finger anyway. This finger's just kind of, in the background. Then you can kind of see a little bit more of that knuckle and that finger back there, maybe even a slight hint of another knuckle. And I'm going to have a little bit of the pad down there. Notice I don't always connect my lines. I just sometimes I leave a lot of space. And let's see here. I'm going to come up again at a slight angle, almost at a time, slight angle, come down, longer pad, like so, and I'm going to kind of maybe add a little bit of dimensionality by going like that. Right, anyway, so, practice those techniques, add them into whatever style you're doing now, and you can get more of a cool comic book style out of your hands. Alright, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Again, stay tuned for the complete hand tutorial that I'll probably put on my website, so stay tuned for that. Oh, please feel free to rate and comment. I appreciate it. And check out my website and my comic.